I'm more
Oh,
fidgety
really?
and I'm looking around the room and I'm getting more distracted. I'm not very good at mindfulness. So that's confession.
Confession.
Yeah. Hello, everyone, and welcome once again to Irenicast. We are a weekly podcast dedicated to the exploration of faith and culture. We are your hosts. I'm Jeff.
I'm Mona.
And I'm Alan.
Thank you again for joining us this week. If you haven't, go back and listen to our last episode because we made a groundbreaking announcement of the fact that we are a part of the elite podcasts in the world. And not only that, but we are heading into our 10th episode, our first double-digit episode. And as part of that celebration, we want to include you, the listener, into our conversation. So out of everyone who, number one, we want you to be able to pick our segment because we always do a fun little segment at the end, and we've done several. Well, at that point, we will have done 9. Today will be
You are
our
so
9th
good
one,
at counting.
right? I know. I had to think about it for a second. So for those of you that are listening, I edited out a very long pause. So if you liked a particular segment, we'd like to hear that. And the top vote getter, we will redo that segment. We will bring it back.
So wait, okay, so we want people to give us ideas for a segment. And what are we doing for our main topic?
So for our main topic, we want to hear from you also. So instead of taking the top vote getter for a main topic, we're actually just going to take every question that comes through and do it in rapid fire succession. So, if you can, make your questions more easily answerable instead of major topics that we have to tackle.
No, I want debates. I want throwdowns, like quick, that'll be good. But what kind of questions are we inviting? Like very serious questions?
They can be
Like,
very serious questions, like what is meaning of life? What are your thoughts on this topic? Or even just simple questions that you think, because obviously we've established at this point, we each have our expertise and things that we care passionately about. So, for instance, if you have a Bible question, bring it to the table, and Alan or any one of us can answer that. Any kind of thing that you would like to hear our thoughts on, because we're that important in your lives. We know.
And even if you just want something read from yourself on our podcast.
Oh yeah, send us your opinions.
Yeah.
We will read something from you.
Or
But,
even if you just want your name said,
like
just
a
email and
paragraph.
say, hey, say my name. Give me is it shout out or shot out or
Shout out.
shout out? Is that it?
A shout out.
I don't know. I'm not.
We're gonna shout out everybody.
That's right.
Well, okay, and silly questions are welcome too. Like if they want to know our favorite breakfast cereal, this is it's a CIA secret for me. No one knows, but you might just find out if you ask.
Oh yeah, that's good. Personal questions. Well, not too personal.
They can be as personal as you want. We just might not answer them.
Very good. Exactly.
There you go.
So really, we want to hear
That'll
from you. And we're very excited about our 10th episode. And then we're very excited about what's happening after our 10th episode. And we will have more information on what's happening after our 10th episode on our 10th episode.
We're
right?
doing a series.
We're doing a series. And
That's all we'll tell you.
That's all we'll tell you. I
It's
think
gonna
we
be
hinted
good.
a little
That's
last
the
week
other
on
thing
what
we'll
it's going to be
tell you.
about. So anyway, yes. So that's our major announcement. So what about you two? Anything from your week that you want to share with the world?
So I have a new chair, and that's a pretty big deal for me because for the past 6 months, I've been looking on Craigslist for chairs. I went to IKEA and saw chairs that were way overpriced and thought that I could do better. So for the past 6 months, I've been trying to do better. And I'm very, very particular about what I sit in. So I'm pretty excited because we just bought this gorgeous chair that is leather and wood. And I'm actually sitting in it right now. And I'm pretty excited.
Just to paint a picture for those of you that are listening on how important it is for Alan to have the right chair. There was a brief moment in time where we lived in the same town at one point, and then later we lived in the same house. So we lived in the same town, and he would bring his chair to come over and hang out. And it wasn't just like a folding chair that could fit nicely into the trunk or anything like that. He had to bring his van, and it was a big recliner that I think was affectionately called the poo chair because at one point you took a dump on it or something like that. Am I correct?
What the heck?
Okay, so
Is this true?
I never called it that. And first of all, this was a smaller recliner, and it was very comfortable. And there was not as much comfortable seating at your house, Jeff. And there was constantly people over at your house, 20, 30 plus all the time. And so I would bring a chair to make sure that I had a comfortable place to sit. It's a chair from my childhood, and there was an incident when I was very young, maybe 3 or 4 years old, where we had a contest between my brothers and I about passing gas, and I accidentally had an accident in a chair.
No.
So this is how important it is for Alan. It was so comfortable, and Alan was so particular about this chair. He would still be willing to sit on it, even though it had been defecated on.
Well, my mom made my older brother clean it up because he was the one that instigated the whole thing. I was like 4 years old.
I'm too OCD. I'm under the impression that never really gets cleaned up, and that it's always I would have thrown it away. Yeah, it's gross. And anyway, so then later when Alan and my sister graciously moved in with my wife and I for just a short time so that they could help us with our soon-to-be-born twin girls, I believe that the chair had been discarded eventually, right?
It got caught in a freak rainstorm outside I had left it outside for one day, and it got rained on. And unlike poo, you can't really clean a chair once it's been like that badly damaged by rain. So
yeah. So we mourn the loss. We were about to have a memorial service, but we decided against it. I'm just joking. So then Alan goes on another quest to find a good chair, and we found one on Craigslist, which was actually a good thing because when he moved out, then I got to keep it, and it's been
that's right.
It's been very helpful rocking twins to sleep when they need to go to sleep. So I guess it all worked out in the end.
Well, that's a good segue into our episode today because we have been doing so. Can I introduce it this week, Jeff?
Yeah, of course.
We've been nailing segues, by the way. So
we have been.
That's exciting.
Yeah. This is an episode that we've been talking about because we've been doing so many really heavy topics that we wanted to take a little bit of a break and talk about something more comforting and calming. So Alan came up with the idea of doing a segment, not a segment, an actual show, an episode on mindfulness. So Alan, can you explain what that means? Some people don't know what that means.
I will absolutely explain it on the other side of the music. Right, Jeff?
That's right. We're going to be creating.
We're taking your job, Jeff.
We're going to be creating a warm poo chair for our minds.
I'm uncomfortable right now.
That's our opener.
Have I tainted it?
Maybe.
All right. We'll see you on the other side. So, like we said, this week we're going to be talking about mindfulness, and to kind of prep the conversation and create the proper mood for this subject, Mona's going to read just a short segment for us.
This is called The Cookie of Childhood by Thich Nhat Hanh. When I was 4 years old, my mother used to bring me a cookie every time she came home from the market. I always went to the front yard and took my time eating it, sometimes half an hour or 45 minutes for one cookie. I would take a small bite and look up to the sky. Then I would touch the dog with my feet and take another small bite. I just enjoyed being there with the sky, the earth, the bamboo thickets, the cat, the dog, the flowers. I was able to do that because I did not have much to worry about. I did not think of the future. I did not regret the past. I was entirely in the present moment with my cookie, the dog, the bamboo thickets, the cat, and everything. It is possible to eat our meals as slowly and joyfully as I ate the cookie of my childhood. Maybe you have the impression that you have lost the cookie of your childhood, but I am sure it is still there somewhere in your heart. Everything is still there, and if you really want it, you can find it. Eating mindfully is a most important practice of meditation. We can eat in a way that we restore the cookie of our childhood. The present moment is filled with joy and happiness. If you are attentive, you will see it.
So Thich Nhat Hanh is a Zen Buddhist master, and he wrote several books on mindfulness and has given seminars across the world, arguably one of the most well-known. And he talks about mindfulness as a means of being aware of what is going on in the world and a means of becoming available to the world and just practicing really being there. And this comes out of his Buddhism. And there's a concept in Buddhism called sati. I think that's how it's pronounced. Ever since the 1800s, the word sati has been brought into the English language as mindfulness. But what it really means is memory of the present, which might be a little bit confusing because memory for us is something about the past. But being mindful is perceiving the present as if it were a memory, as if it was something that we are completely engaged with and are processing and understanding as it is.
You know, it's funny. I've been doing some work on memory recently. And actually, a lot of people will say that memory is you retelling yourself the story of the past in the present with all of the lenses and colors that the present brings to you. So actually, processes of remembering are present processes, which is so interesting. It kind of collapses time a little bit. This is getting really meta. My question for you is, Alan or Jeff, do you think it's like stealing or reappropriating this Buddhist practice to bring it into our culture?
I would say both. Jeff, I'll just jump in. I would say both.
So it is and is not?
I think reappropriating is probably a good way to talk about it. There are some places where like we co-opt this for different reasons than it was originally intended. I think the original intention behind mindfulness, as far as the Buddhist practice goes, is a means to enlightenment. It's a way to prepare yourself to be on the road to enlightenment and to engage the world non-judgmentally, to engage yourself non-judgmentally. That's actually the hardest part of this practice for me, is to be able to sit and look at the world and look at myself and just observe without being judgmental. Observe the fact that I'm upset, or observe the fact that I'm happy, or that it's cold outside, or that the sun's shining on the ground. And just look at all of those things in a non-judgmental way. But mindfulness does get co-opted, you're talking about, by certain people with certain agendas. I'm thinking of corporations that have talked about mindfulness since the 90s as a way of boosting productivity and helping like the people working for their company be more mindful while they're in the cubicle on their work. So sometimes this masquerades as different things. And there's all kinds of books out there, you know, mindful parenting, mindful this, mindful that. And I just read a Newsweek article like a week and a half ago on how mindfulness gets muddied by a bunch of different things.
Well, there's a Christian tradition of mindfulness too. So it's not just Buddhism. I'm thinking of when Jesus is talking about looking at the lilies of the field. They don't want for anything. Don't worry about tomorrow, about what you will eat or drink. Maybe it's okay to get beyond these labels of what religious tradition offers us what, and really think about what it means to be a human and to enjoy your life, right?
Yeah, and I think that's what we want to discuss, is not necessarily the Buddhist concept of sati or even how we've appropriated it into our language, but for this episode, just discussing what mindfulness really means for us and how it's different than life is normally lived. I don't know about you two, but my life can get pretty hectic. Is that the case for you?
Kind of goes without saying, doesn't it, for most of us?
Yeah, but why is that? Why does that go without saying? You know, why is life at the fevered pitch and pace that it is? Like, why are we constantly thinking about all of these different things that are in front of us instead of just being in the present?
I was at a show last night with one of my friends, and I was there taking photos for them. About halfway through, I was kind of done taking photos, and I was trying to sit and listen to the music, but I realized that having been in that work mode of getting the perfect photo or kind of taking in my surroundings, it was really hard for me to actually just sit and enjoy the music. I almost couldn't tap into an ability to enjoy it. It was really strange. It was like, not that you have to be in a perfect mindset to enjoy music, but it's almost like I couldn't even hear the music itself because I was so distracted by all the other things on my mind. That's not a good way to live, is it?
No, like Instagramming your food, right? You can't eat it because you got to take a picture of it. Not to knock Instagrammers.
Well, yeah, I mean, we do have a culture that like, how I'm going to say this. We're so used to broadcasting our lives to the general public and cultivating a public image that it's almost like we forget to actually enjoy the life that we're trying to broadcast. I do that all the time. I'm terrible. It's terrible.
I think it's interesting that we live in certainly a culture that doesn't allow us or encourage the cultivation of any kind of mindfulness. Because mindfulness seems to be this idea of, all right, it's changing direction, not changing direction of content, but changing direction of your state of being, your emotions, the way you're thinking or everything. And our culture does a great job of changing content because we're all about sound bites and things get shorter. I mean, even television shows, scenes are shorter and it's quicker jumps. And we associate that with this quick jump, but really like what you were talking about, Mona, that idea of you were in this work mode. And if it was a transition into another type of work, it would have been an easy, seamless transition because it's this busy motivation. But to be able to stop that boulder from rolling down the hill and redirect that energy into something and slow it down, I think that's where we run into problems. And we're in a busy culture because that's what that's where we're at, you know? So it's not a necessarily an idea of changing what we're doing, but how we're thinking and how we're approaching and really getting into that place where we can, be present instead of, because I think we're more present in the future than we are the present or even the past sometimes.
So that was really well said. I'm sitting here thinking about this episode being a different pace, and I've noticed my breathing is slowing down and I feel more relaxed, and I'm noticing I can like focus on colors in the room better. It's so strange. Are you guys experiencing this?
I'm experiencing the exact opposite. I'm more fidgety really? And I'm looking around the room and I'm getting more distracted, but I'm not very good at mindfulness. So that's confession. Yeah.
I think that's why Buddhist practitioners call it a practice, because they recognize that no one's ever perfect at it. So
if I could offer, after I read one of the books by Thich Nhat Hanh, and they talk about one of the central elements of the practice of mindfulness is just being aware of your breathing. And I think there's a few things that we can do in our lives that are so simple that they almost sound absurd, but they're some of the most powerful things I've engaged in. And I think one of those is just learning to breathe. Like Thich Nhat Hanh talks about, when you stop for a moment and consider the fact that you're breathing in, and you tell yourself, I am breathing in, and then you tell yourself, I am breathing out, and you do that a few times in your day, it centers you back into where you are at. Like you stop living outside of yourself and you start to begin living in the present. And it's so simple, but it's pretty powerful. So taking time in your day to just stop and say, I am breathing in, I am breathing out, and it can be in any context, makes me personally more available to the world. Like when I'm talking with other people, if I can center myself in some way, I can actually be there to engage with them. It's not something like a selfish practice or a practice where we're just focusing on ourselves necessarily. Being aware of ourself is the first step in being present in our world and then being aware of other people.
Yeah. So I read something recently and then I heard it shortly after that, is not only just this, you said the word selfish or whatever, but I think there's healthy selfishness, and it does, I mean, on a scientific level, it does wonders for our brain activity and how we interact with the world. I read something that said it actually makes it harder if you commit to just a half hour of mindfulness or meditation or some form of mindfulness a day, that it actually creates something in your brain that makes it harder for you to get angry, And that, to me, that is a concept that is pretty amazing, because I know I can have a tendency to get irritated at the smallest things, especially when things are when things are so hectic, and to know that I can actually like put myself in a place to make it difficult for me to get to a place that causes frustration. And then when I have that frustration, I get even more frustrated because I got frustrated. And it's this tiring cycle. And I don't do well with silence and sitting there and breathing. Even when I'm reading, I have like music on and a TV on. Like I don't know. It's difficult, but it's so worth it.
I'm so bad at sitting in silence too. I totally hear that. But there's so many, even if we take like the spirituality or the psychological aspects out of it, it's actually a health practice that like living with hypertension and anxiety slowly kills you. You'll have a shorter lifespan on average than other people. So learning to sit and be comfortable and calm is so foreign to us, but it's
and
important.
scary
And
for a lot of people.
scary.
Hmm.
And I'm also thinking about the fact that I've heard a lot of rhetoric in more conservative circles of skepticism toward anything that sounds new agey, even the idea of returning to your breath. On the other side of this, I've heard, the one thing that we have in common that links us to each other and that links us to the earth and to other species of animals is our breath, that we breathe in and out. And this is a universal experience of being alive. And so when we connect to our breath, we're saying, I'm alive and it's good. I'm alive and it's good, in and out. It's so funny that we would run away from that.
Well, I was scared of that idea for a long time. I grew up in Pentecostal churches, and we were explicitly told that meditation or any kind of clearing of your mind opens up the door for the devil or demons or whatever to influence your thought or your way of being or all that kind of stuff.
Right.
So there was this heavy cloud of like this other spiritual world that was at war against you, and if you gave it a foothold, so I felt like I had to keep busy. I had to keep my mind going. And then, so how do you meditate? Well, you have to meditate on scripture or whatever. And this complete denial that our connection with the earth isn't a biblical value. I mean, we are created with that same breath and that same voice. And to deny that connectivity and attribute it to evil is ridiculous to me.
Did you ever hear the phrase, be still and know that I am God?
Yeah, we sang that song, and then we'd have a sermon about how don't be too still, or the devil will steal you.
Yeah, and
whatever.
I think we too quickly jumped to the second part of that. We skipped the whole being still aspect. I think there's two steps. The first is being still, being aware of who we are and how we are and what we are doing, and then moving into more contemplation of God or something divine. That's a second step, but it's sometimes we look at that first step. And like you said, we demonize this as some Eastern philosophy that's invading our theology. But I think it's there. It's just implicit that we have to learn to be able to quiet ourselves down and think of ourselves. And I would say think of ourselves non-judgmentally. And that's a helpful first step to engage the other, whether that's a person in front of you or whether that's God. They rely upon that first step.
And that's the difficulty, I think, of mindfulness for a lot of people is it's not only that our culture perpetuates this idea of keep going, think about the future, here's what you want, go, but it's also an escape. Sometimes there's a reason we don't want to be silent is because there's stuff in our hearts and in our minds that we haven't dealt with, and that silence confronts us with it, and that is scary enough to want to avoid with everything that we are.
That's why the only way for people like me, and I've struggled with that too. That's why the only way for me to enter into mindfulness is to take that first step of non-judgment. I am just going to observe myself. I'm not going to pass judgment on myself. I'm not going to shame or talk down to myself. I am going to rest here and know myself as I am, know the world as it is without being judgmental. And that's a key concept that can help us get past some of those insecurities.
That's really good. I'm thinking of a lot of this skepticism still about people who demonize like Eastern ways of being or more meditative ways of being. And I'm thinking back again to the words of Jesus, and so many of Jesus' parables were about the earth and cultivating land and being connected to nature. A lot of his words saying things like, blessed are the peacemakers. And really we gloss over that so easily. Something you said, Alan, really caught my attention. This is something that I've tried to change my thinking on, because considering God as the other, God is something out there that we have to strive to connect to all the time versus God as within us, so integrally part of us. And again, if we go back to this idea that we talked about in previous episodes, that we are not fundamentally bad and our bodies are not fundamentally bad, but we are all connected as one being. That means God is also connected to us, not just little pieces of us, but to sit still with ourselves and commune with ourselves is also to commune with God. And I realize that language probably makes some people really uncomfortable because it confuses like us and God. But I think people are divine in a really deep sense. That to me is what being made in the image of God means. So to sit still with ourselves is a form of prayer to me.
Oh yeah.
I think that's worth another episode for sure, to talk about like God and the world and the connection between the two. And that's very, very fascinating. But at the very least, if we're not sitting still with ourselves, we can't perceive the world accurately, right? We can't perceive ourselves accurately. Mona, you talked about how we're looking through the present and our memories through a series of lenses, things that shape us and shape the way we look. Well, if we're in a constant hurried motion, you're taking these lenses and shaking them up, and it gets even more distorted. If I'm busy and I hear my wife say something and I have all these other things on my mind and I am not in the present moment, my understanding of what she needs or what she feels or what's happening will be further distorted. But if I'm in a place where I am non-judgmentally connected with myself and I know what I'm feeling and I know that I'm breathing, I can hear my wife say something or need something and accurately understand what she's saying.
Yeah. And back to that, the research that's been done on this is that actively meditating or putting yourself in practicing mindfulness creates, like literally creates empathy and a higher sensation of it. And that's not just something we feel. That's something that we actually have tangible data to attach to this practice.
We actually practice on ourselves for the way we relate to other people, because we have these inner monologues going on in our brains where we talk to ourselves and we think about ourselves in certain ways. We're actually practicing how we will treat other people. And I think sometimes, especially Christians in my background, hear things like self-love or being empathetic towards yourself as such a negative thing.
Yeah. Don't have self-esteem, have Christ-esteem.
Exactly. And Jeff, you and I had this conversation. We were actually walking by a Chili's restaurant. This is so
we do a lot of walking
critical.
by restaurants.
This is so critical for me that I remember where we were when we talked about it. And you made the claim that you have to be able to love yourself to love other people well. And it was such a foreign concept for me because it's the opposite of everything I'd ever heard in church. I didn't agree with you immediately, but now that I've gone through years of studying and looking at church and ministry and just thinking about theology and human beings, I'm out this other way where I get what you had said. Like, it makes sense to me now. When we hear Jesus say the two greatest commandments are to love God, love others as you love yourself. I always remembered love God, love others, but this concept of, if I don't love myself well, if I can't be empathetic and non-judgmental toward myself, I can't be that way toward other people. If I shame myself and hate myself, and then I try to love others as I love myself, I'm going to shame them and hate them as well.
Yeah.
So that's an important first step, is to be empathetic. And so the research that says you're more empathetic towards others, that's connected to the sense that we treat others as well as we treat ourselves, or at least worse than that.
Yeah. And projection is a real way that we interact with people, where we project our insecurities and the things that we believe onto others. And if we don't deal with those or allow ourselves, like you said, to be non-judgmental with ourselves, to walk through those things, then we are going to project those things on others and have unfair assumptions. And I think that this has implications on all the stuff that we've talked about last week when we talked about race, that idea of being able to empathize. And even before that, with everything that we talk about, having a healthy state of mind is so important for having that first step for healthy conversation, which is the catalyst for this podcast.
If I could make one thing clear, when I say non-judgmental, I think that's the first step. I think we can analyze things in our lives that need to be changed, or ways that we are that need to be changed. Non-judgment is the first step of being mindful. So I'm not saying, don't worry about all the bad things that you do or whatever, but like, that's a step that comes after being able to stop and observe yourself. That's what I mean.
So loving yourself means giving yourself what you need.
Absolutely. Space and understanding.
Yeah. And sometimes what we need is being gentle with ourselves and being able to sit and be relaxed and calm, because it's inhumane to drive ourselves into the ground with worry and busyness.
Yeah.
If we're worried and busy and that prevents us from seeing other people as they are, maybe it's the same with us. Maybe we can't treat ourselves the way we need to be treated if we can't really see ourselves for who we are, if we can't be understanding. And if we're always so distracted, we won't be able to see who we are.
Yeah. And that's not to say, I know there's this ridiculous connotation against this non-judgmental, which a lot of people assume means non-accountable and not dealing with stuff, but just letting it be. But that's not it at all. That's allowing us the room in a healthy way, deal with those things that we tend to judge ourselves on and realize the bigger picture. And it's a way of moving past. And I don't think you can move past some of those things in our lives or in our mind if we choose not to be judgmental.
Yeah, judgmental it's got such a negative connotation, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I think there's a difference between judgment and honesty.
Yeah.
Judgment is saying that, I'm giving a decree and I'm requiring a sort of punishment for wrongdoing, versus honesty and giving yourself a break and realizing there are things to work on, but not in a punishment sort of way, in a way that gives grace and dignity.
And creates life. Yeah, definitely.
And creates life. There are so many ways we've touched on the fact that a lot of us have inherited a form of religion that is life denying, that really ultimately holds this sort of angry eye toward life itself, in ourselves and in others, and that life can't be fundamentally good. I don't know about you, but as I've kind of made my way sort of through and past, traditional sort of forms of faith and I realize that this is going to be off-putting for some people, but that's okay. I'm just being completely honest that right now, as it stands, I don't relate to things like worship services and worship music and a lot of language around like King Jesus or God. I don't want to see a God that's way above, but rather a God that's very close and intimate and personal. So I guess to say the most profound way that I can conceptualize of worshiping God in any capacity is to radically embrace life. Life in me, life in others, to recognize the life and to protect the life of others and myself. That to me is one of the most amazing ways to realize the presence of God in this world.
It's interesting that you bring up worship, because I agree. I mean, there's that mode that we disconnect mindfulness with that kind of thing, because I think part of worship is this idea of disconnecting ourselves from God. Like you talk about the other, or God way up there and us way down here, as a way of creating contrast. But the most effective times for me in that place where I feel like I'm present with God and the things and the people around me are those moments where it doesn't feel so lofty. It doesn't feel so high. It feels tangible. It feels in the moment, with the whole point of the idea of mindfulness is really having that idea that we say all the time, God is with you, but those moments, for me, very profound, where you feel God is with you. And not only that God is with you, but that these other people are with you, and you're in this place of like-mindedness.
You're talking about being present and being in the moment. I have this crazy idea. People exist in the present. Nobody exists in the future, and nobody exists in the past.
Yeah.
And when we're caught up thinking about the future or reflecting on the past, and both of those things are not bad, but when our whole lives are comprised of those two poles, we lose the present, and people only exist in the present. So we lose our humanity. Yeah, we lose each other. And this last month, I finally read Walden by Thoreau, Henry David Thoreau. I had read excerpts in the past, but finally sat down and read the whole thing. And one of the quotations that I wrote down from it said this: God himself, that's Thoreau's way of talking, God himself culminates in the present moment and will never be more divine in the lapse of all the ages. And after reading that, I thought about it, and I realized that I have always projected God out into the future. I have always projected God out into the day when all things are fulfilled and some end times thing happens and God establishes, the kingdom fully on earth, and we see and we can touch Jesus and things are finally finished. But after reading that, I realized that may be true in some sense. But at the same time, God will not be more God in the future. God's fullness exists right now in the present. Just like you and I exist in the present, God exists in the present. Instead of this future projection in my mind or the past, which is an important element of our experience. To truly engage God or engage other people, we have to live in the present because that's where they're at.
That word that talks about things to come in Christian theology is typically used, it's called eschatology. And a lot of people think of that as the last things, but some theologians talk about that as actually eschatology is whatever the source of Christian hope is.
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't always have to be about the future. It can be what keeps us together and keeps us going now, which is like a completely different way to look at it.
So it's a present energy, not just something we're studying about that's going to happen later, but something that fuels us in the present.
Yeah, not something that we're looking forward to or dreading, but something now that gives us hope amidst suffering and despair. Actually, the question I've had throughout this conversation, I think it's so easy to talk this talk. Of course, we all have a hard time actually doing these things or practicing these things, but what do we have to say to our listeners who might be bearing really difficult things? And it's too hard just to say, don't worry about it, because sometimes when you go through something really difficult, it just takes up your whole consciousness. It's like trying to stare through a wall or something. And so how do we tell people not to worry about something that really demands their full attention in the moment?
I think worry is important, right? And I think there are times where our mind is engaged in something. Sneaking certain moments into our day where we can stop and just think, I am worried, or I am scared, or I am angry, and being able to look at ourselves and know that we're feeling those things is a healthy practice regardless of what's happening around us. There was an airplane pilot who landed, I forgot his name. He landed the airplane in the middle of the Hudson. Do you remember this guy?
Yeah, I remember that.
And he's a Christian, and someone asked him if he was praying when the engines failed and he was going to crash. And he actually laughed. And he said, no, of course not. He's like, my brain went into automatic mode of assessing the situation, having this like hyper awareness and knowing exactly how he was going to land. Sometimes we think like we have to have this prayerful, existence where we're disengaged and like, look, and that's not necessarily what I think mindfulness is about. I think mindfulness is recognizing our needs. And sometimes we need to be so engaged that we're not taking time to meditate. In that moment, it would be wrong for him to be like, I'm feeling this way when the airplane's going down, right? But but in our daily lives, if we don't make space, regardless of what's happening around us, at least at some point in our day, that will get crowded out on a permanent basis. Even trivial things will crowd out our ability to know what we're feeling.
Yeah. I think when you ask that question, is that idea of, I think there are real worries. And I think that state of mindfulness gives us a place to discern whether this is a worry that I can actually take action steps to begin. Like if I'm worried that my water's going to get shut off, and I can sit down and be like, okay, I can put this money here and this money here, and I can pay the bill and everything's going to be fine, as opposed to something that's completely out of our control. And I think that's where the problem comes in, is when we're worrying about things that there's no way we could ever do anything about, and all we're doing is thinking and worrying about it. And I think putting ourselves in a place of mindfulness is almost an organization of our mind. We realize, okay, I can do this or this or this, or getting to that place where there's nothing I can do. So how do I channel that worry into something else? And it's giving us a moment of clarity that we don't allow ourselves to have when we're consuming our mind with worry.
But even given both of those things, whether it's something we control or not, if we don't make space to exist, disconnected from all the things we have to do, if we don't make space to eat the cookie, and put our feet on the dog and just realize we're existing, we're always going to have those things that we can work on. You can work on this problem or that problem. To engage both those things you're talking about in a healthy way, either letting go or taking more responsibility, there's this first step before all of that is knowing how we're feeling. That's key to engaging those things in a healthy way. But those are very, very good points.
I'm thinking about identity a lot in this conversation, because it sounds like what we're kind of coming to is that mindfulness is really taking a step back as much as possible and reminding yourself that you're not defined by whatever's going on in the moment, that your humanity is so much more profound and beautiful than the temporary or temporal sorts of concerns that we have. And we live in a culture where we're so defined by what we do. We're human doings instead of human beings often. And, at a party, that's kind of the first thing people ask you. And I think that's really not healthy on so many levels. So being mindful is to take that step back and recognize, oh yeah, life is not about this thing that I'm running really hard at, and reminding ourselves to connect, right? And to be fully alive and present and to celebrate that
Maybe I'll
instead of
start
working
asking
against it.
people. Maybe I'll start asking people at parties, "Who are you?" instead of "What do you do?"
One time I went to a nuclear protest. Was going with friends and I was interested. There was a nun speaking who had been incarcerated for protesting at a nuclear facility. So debates about that aside, she was an amazing person that she was willing to be incarcerated for her beliefs. Anyway, I met her. She had just gotten out of prison after being in there for 6 months. And I met her and shook her hand. And she asked me the following question that just absolutely floored me. She said, "How do you spend your days?" And I was like, oh my goodness. How do you spend your days? It's such a different question than what do you do? It's recognizing that it doesn't matter if you're in prison, it doesn't matter if you're the leader of the free world, that we all spend our days doing meaningful things and things that we try to make sense out of our lives. And there's no hierarchy of importance to a large degree. There is some, but it was amazing to be asked this question by this woman who had been locked up for months.
It's amazing how those moments that disrupt the flow of how you normally act really cause you to stop and think. Because, the typical thing is, what do? You say it and then you move on. And there's this flow and this script to conversations that we have every day. We probably, if we look back, we wouldn't even think about what we said. It was just, that's the habit. But when people ask those questions, how it creates this brand new space to explore and this brand new space to interact with people around us. And I think that's good, is coming up with those questions that kind of throw people off that pattern that tends to disconnect instead of connect.
And it was the way she said it too. She didn't say it judgmentally at all. She just looked into my eyes with so much joy and like sparkliness and aliveness. And I was like, this is a person who I'm talking to who is so fully alive. So when she asked me this question, that's part of the reason I was thrown off, because she said it with so much intentionality and joy that I was like, oh my gosh, who are you? Who are you?
Someone who's living in the present and not worried about all the things that are happening. Someone that's okay with themselves, right? So they can actually engage you. That's what it sounds like.
Yeah. That's the hard part though, right? Being okay with yourself.
Have you guys noticed? Yeah. Have you guys noticed, like, meeting someone brand new and not remember their names? This happens to me almost every time because I'm so consumed with the nervousness of meeting someone new and what do I say and how do I not look stupid that I forget their name. And it's only one tidbit of information. It's really not that difficult for our brains to remember one thing, but somehow I forget every single time because I'm not really that present.
Me too. The reason why I'm so passionate about this subject is that I'm the worst. I think I've said that before too. But and you know what, maybe it's a family thing, but like just living in my brain so much, I'm not present with other people. Since Jeff gave a confession a little earlier, I'll give one too. Sometimes I'm so disconnected with the present that I bump into walls. Like I'll turn around and I'll shoulder a wall. And sometimes it happens when I'm more stressed out than not. But I get so disconnected with the present that I can't even remember where walls are at, much less people's names.
That's pretty bad, dude.
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
You said you're the worst. I didn't know if you were serious, but I think you might be serious.
I am.
I've done not the same thing, but working in church on a Sunday morning, this place that's supposed to be set aside for experiencing God and experiencing community. I can't tell you how many times people had written me or not even talked to me, just avoided me because they felt that I brushed them off or that I was rude. And I didn't even remember because I was so focused on I have to do this, I have to go over here, I have to talk to this person, I have to get this done, and forgetting that I even had conversations and not even being aware of something as simple as like my facial expression, on how I'm looking at people. And when I'm making eye contact and I have this scowl on my face or this thoughtful look, like I'm trying to get this done, and just forgetting that I'm in a place that's very purpose is to be about connection.
Wow. So being present may seem trivial, but there seems like there's a lot at stake.
So many implications for that.
Yeah, where we lose community, other people, our whole world if we're not present.
One of my friends once told me that they have really strong social anxiety, so sometimes they will pretend that they are tipsy to be fully okay. I know that sounds really bizarre.
I don't think that sounds weird at all.
To be fully present in conversation, to pretend that they've been a little bit inebriated. And I think often actually it kind of saddens me that as a grown-up that the idea of a good time is to drink a lot in a lot of circles, because I think we've lost a social ability to really be with each other and to really spend meaningful time with each other without substance. And so I don't have a moral issue with alcohol itself, but when it becomes a social crutch and we never develop good skills for relating to each other, if alcohol's not there, that's really freaking sad.
That's actually exactly what Jeff's wife told me one time. We were talking about this very subject, and she said those exact words. It's very sad that we don't live in a world where we care about each other and have our guards down enough that we don't need alcohol to have those kinds of situations. That's
like we can always be affectionate and real if we're drinking. What the
present.
heck? What the heck is that?
Well, if you allow me to be a little cliche, but because we originally planned to do this conversation a week before this, due to lack of preparation on my end and all kinds of things, we just didn't have that conversation. So I started, thinking about this and had the week to kind of let it soak before we sat here to record it. Anyway, the whole idea of everything, when you have kids, your perspective changes and you learn all these different things. And it's true, but I don't think it's as true as people make it out to be. So I'm laying on the couch on the latter part of the week. I'm with my daughters while my wife is at work. And I'm laying on the couch and watching them, but I'm also thinking about this idea of mindfulness, and I'm checking my email and watching the girls, and I'm just doing all of these things in the moment. And I feel this little hand grab my chin and pull me into eye contact, and it's my daughter. And it was just this moment where I'm thinking about mindfulness and how it works and what it is. And then I have this moment of mindfulness where my head is being literally turned by my daughter into her bright blue eyes. And she has this big old toothy smile on. And I just stopped and literally I wept a little bit. And I was just like, man, thank you. All that reading, everything like that. But it was just that moment where I'm looking in my daughter's eyes and she grabs my face and says, "Hey, what are you doing? We're here."
She was offering you a cookie of your childhood.
Exactly. We're here. And it's a very profound moment. It's actually kind of haunted me this week. I've thought about it a lot. And that face pops up in my mind when I've gotten frustrated since then. It's like, oh yeah, that's right. That little moment. And having those moments have been just pretty amazing.
That's beautiful. I love it.
The book that I was referencing before by Thich Nhat Hanh actually opens up with that exact example. It's this.
Which one are you talking about,
Alex? The Art of Mindfulness.
Okay, I read From Pieces Every Step, by the way. Those are both excellent.
So, sometimes people think of mindfulness or meditation as an escape from the world, but Hahn makes the case that it's being more present with people. And he actually says the mother who is mindful will be able to hear the cries of her child, will be able to respond to the baby that needs her or respond to the person that needs her. So I've been thinking of that for the past month, and to hear, Jeff, that you actually had that experience while you were thinking about mindfulness, that's pretty awesome.
It was pretty intense.
Awesome.
Something as simple as that was pretty intense. And then I just played with it to see, well, maybe it was a coincidence. So I looked away just to play around, and she grabbed my face again and pulled it back. And I was like, whoa, that's so great. Anyway.
She sensed what was happening or something.
I think so.
It's amazing.
They're pretty intuitive young ladies.
I was going to say, we're probably close to wrapping up, but I was going to say, if you're interested in more of the tradition in Christianity of meditation and bringing in Buddhist philosophy into faith practice, Thomas Merton I think he's a Jesuit that traveled around India and wrote amazing work on basically mindfulness and Christianity. So I recommend his stuff.
I just read his Dialogues with Silence. It's actually on sale on Kindle, I think, right now for $1 if you want to buy one.
Nice.
But yeah, he did actually meet with Buddhist masters, and he's a Christian contemplative. So that I also second what you just said.
Another one I like is Joan Chittister, writes a lot on spirituality and Christianity, kind of more of the mystical side, the slower side that is more contemplative. Mm-hmm. She's good too.
And as always, we will definitely put links to these things that we're talking about in the show notes. And just a quick reminder for the show notes, if the app that you're listening to doesn't have the ability to look at the show notes, you can always go to our blog at irenicast.com, and every post for the podcast will have a list of all the links that we have for every episode and the show notes attached to it. So we encourage you to go there and also check out the blogs that we have up from time to time. So I think that's a good place to kind of end this conversation, and hopefully for you who are listening, begin something new in the way that you interact with the world and recognize that there's precious need to have time where you are present with the moment and realizing that there is a world happening right in that moment, and to learn to be in awe of that, and to learn to insert yourself into that and disconnect from all the future thinking and the past thinking that distracts us from having those moments where we can look into a young girl's eyes and see life.
And even if it's only for a couple seconds a day, just give it a shot.
Yeah.
It'll make a difference.
Well, on the other side of the music, we will be doing a little game of 20 questions.
And being present with one another.
Exactly. So participate with us as we play 20 questions. Maybe you'll guess before we do. We are back. And like I said, at the end of our conversation, we were going to be playing 20 questions. However, we recorded a session of 20 questions and it went super long, and it was
kind of boring.
A little bit. Well, boring, but
I will say one person picked puka shells, one person picked Springfield, and the other lemonade. And I'll leave it up to you to decide who picked what.
That's a good question.
Yeah, there we go.
That's a good Facebook question.
I think
So the two things. Number one, we're going to do 10 questions in anticipation for our 10th episode next week, which I know you were already writing in to give us suggestions for segments and questions. And it shortens the time because we don't want to keep you too long.
And we narrowed the topic.
And we did narrow the topic. So the topic is celebrities who are alive. So
and not fictional, like real celebrities.
Real celebrities, real names, yes.
Okay.
Well, what about reality stars? Would they be considered fictional or real? Because they're sort of real, but they're sort of fictional.
There's no time to get meta. Let's do this thing.
Okay, so let's do it.
Like actual real celebrities. Okay.
Yes.
All right. So who's going first? Who wants to?
I'll go first. Go ahead.
Okay.
I want you to guess.
Okay. So are they an entertainment star?
Yes.
Are they known for a television show?
No.
Are they known for music?
Nope.
Are they known for movies?
Yes.
So wait, how many questions is that?
That's 3.
That's 4.
4. Are they an actor?
Yes.
Are they known for being in a specific genre of movie? Drama, comedy, whatever.
Yes.
Are they usually a part of comedy?
Yes. That's 7 questions. You have 3 left.
Okay, so just for clarification, we are dealing with a male movie star who is typically in comedy movies.
Yes.
You can ask. I don't know.
Okay. Is this person white?
Yes. Come on, guys. Male comedian.
Did this person make a bunch of movies in the 90s?
Yeah, I would say so, yes.
Okay.
Okay. So we have one more question and then we have to guess, correct?
Uh-huh.
Should we ask if this person was ever on SNL?
Ooh, good question.
Yes.
Dang. I'm going to say Steve Martin.
What do you think, Jeff?
I'm going to say Adam Sandler.
Oh, man. It's Bill Murray.
Bill Murray.
Bill Murray, did he really do a lot of movies in the 90s? I think his heyday was in the 80s.
Yeah, but he did some 90s.
He did. I mean, he's been around for a long time, though, you know?
Okay, I'll go.
Okay.
Is it... Alan, you go first.
Is it an actress?
No.
I should have asked something about movies or TV shows.
No.
Is it someone in the entertainment industry?
Yes.
Is it an actor?
No.
Is it a director?
No.
So they're in the entertainment industry.
Yes.
But they're not an actor or director. Is it a comedian?
No.
They might be a reality TV star, though.
Oh, Jeff did say that.
Well, they are actors, though. They're reality TV actors.
Is it a personality? Like
yes.
It's a celebrity personality?
Yes.
Wait, what does that mean?
That was a stupid question. I don't know. Can I take it back? Retraction.
I'll allow a clarification of that question.
Is it a regular person who became a celebrity?
Is that a question, Alan?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Like, is it someone who didn't, it's not because of their career, they just accidentally became a celebrity?
No.
Is it someone who got famous through reality TV or YouTube?
No.
Dang, we only have 2 more. We're not even close. Is this person young?
No. One more question.
There's no way.
You never know.
We're not going to get
lost this.
Don't give up.
Oh, is this person in sports?
No.
Dang it.
I don't even know what category this person is in.
I was going to entertainment industry, but it's not
young.
music. Yeah, it's not music.
A
It's
host. The person
A
is a host.
Oh, John
is it
Oliver.
Ryan Seacrest?
No and no. It is Jerry Springer.
He's an actor.
He's not
He's
an
a
actor.
comedian, dude.
He's not a
He's
comedian.
still an actor.
He was an actor. He was in TV shows, right?
But he's primarily a host. Just because someone has acted doesn't make them an actor. And when he does act, he's being his Jerry Springer TV host
I thought you
person.
meant Jerry Seinfeld.
No,
I
not
got confused.
Seinfeld.
Oh, Seinfeld. I heard Seinfeld too. Wait,
No.
did you hear that too, Mona?
Jerry Springer.
Yes.
Okay, there's something wrong with us. I
Springer.
heard Seinfeld also.
No, Jerry Springer.
You're
That's
right.
a really good one. That's
That
a
is a
weird
really
story.
that's a
Well
good one
done.
though. That's
Well
like
done,
the
sir.
puka shells of actors right there.
All right, Alan, you're up. What do you got for
Okay.
us?
I can't tell you.
Wait,
Oh
that's-
yeah, that's how it works.
That's right. Totally forgot how this game worked. Okay.
That wouldn't be the first time, Jeff.
Oh
Oh.
my goodness.
Sore spot.
I will ask a question.
Okay.
Is it someone in the entertainment industry?
Yes. That's a brilliant question, by the way. I wonder who thought of that first.
Well,
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
This person is.
Okay, let me clarify before I say this. When I say the word actor, I'm using the PC term that includes both females and males.
yay!
Clarification.
Yes.
Is it an actor?
Yes.
Okay.
Jeff. Is it a comedic actor?
Not normally.
Is it a comedic actor who tries not to be comedic, but who is comedic, like Keanu Reeves?
No, don't ask that question. We scratch that. Scratch that. Just for
Not
clarif-
usually a comedic actor.
No.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Not usually a comedic actor. So we're
All right.
we're.
Only at 3 questions, though, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Is this person usually in mainstream blockbusters, or as opposed to
Yes.
independent films? Yes. Okay.
Is this person known for being exceptionally good looking?
I would say yes, but that might not be the public's opinion. So maybe.
Okay, so not like a universal heartthrob,
Not like
Brad
a
Pitt
Brad Pitt
somebody.
or something. Yeah.
Okay. alright.
Actually, I don't. My personal
Not-
judgment would cloud that. So
Is this a heart? Is this a heartthrob type figure?
I just gave you way too much information, Jeff. Okay. Not really. I don't think so.
Okay. All right.
Maybe our listeners can help me out. I don't think so.
We should take a poll. Is this person good looking or not?
That'll be the question, but that's totally objectifying.
Is this person
It's terrible.
currently working?
Yeah, I believe so. Yes. So that's 6 questions.
Is this person known for a type of like a typecast sort of role, like a superhero or a villain?
Are they a typecasted role? I would
Yeah,
say, yeah, probably,
Okay.
maybe.
So by typecast, you mean usually
Like
associated
typically
with
plays
the
a similar role, like all the time.
I would say yeah. They play
Yeah.
a somewhat similar role. Yeah.
Okay.
Kind of. Yeah.
has this person always been an actor, or are they coming from a different form of entertainment?
Always, I believe. Sorry, I just answered and I'm supposed to say yes or no questions.
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
they've always been an actor, I believe. You have 2 more questions. You should narrow down the field.
Yeah, I know. We're trying.
Ask questions that cut all of the actors like in little segments.
Ew.
This
literal
game's
mind.
so much easier when you're not the one playing.
Well, yeah, because you know the answer.
I know, right?
I think
All
it's
right.
harder on the other end. I want to help so bad. Anyway,
Is this person made fun of?
No, I
Not
don't
so
believe
much.
So.
So just a dramatic, serious actor
Mhm.
who is kind of typecasted but plays the major blockbusters. And wait, have we established male or female yet?
No, that's
No.
why I'm like,
Dang it. Okay. Maybe that has to be the last question, Jeff.
I
What do
guess
you
so.
think?
Okay.
Is this person male?
No.
Oh, so it's a lady. Okay.
Yes.
A lady.
Act-
A lady and okay, I got it. I got to guess because we're done with our questions, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll give you. Yeah, you're done with your questions. That's 10.
Okay, Angelina Jolie.
Mona?
Well,
I'm gonna say Kate Winslet.
No. It's actually Sigourney Weaver.
Oh, Sigourney. You love Sigourney.
you said
Weaver.
current.
I do.
I guess she is currently working.
Yeah, I
Okay.
just saw.
It's a
Well,
shame,
And what do you think? Is she a heartthrob or not? Because
I think she's beautiful. But
I
don't
would say
think
so.
but she wouldn't be
she's a
considered
very
now.
talented-
I mean,
I
in
just-
Alien, when she's running around in her underwear, I think she was pretty much considered. Well, in Alien, that was like she was very attractive in her early days, but the way Hollywood works, they
Wow.
write women off, unfortunately, way
Wow,
too.
Jeff.
What?
I would say
Holly.
no. I'd say she's kind of a traditionally a heartthrob. I would say
Yeah.
definitely.
I see. That's why I had a hard time.
But
answering
she's
that.
such a good actor that she's almost in the category of like.
Yeah,
And she was in
Who am I
Galaxy
thinking of?
Quest, and her whole character was based on being a heartthrob.
that's true.
And attractive.
That's
I think a good actor
She
can
tends-
play that or not play that, right?
she tends to be in sci-fi movies, right? I mean,
Tends to be,
Alien.
yeah. I mean, her
She's
that
in
alien role defined her a lot.
Avatar. She's a huge.
We talked about Avatar.
Yeah, Avatar. All right. Okay, I think that we'll end there for this week. Thank you for joining us. Help support the show by going to iTunes and Stitcher to rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast. Email us at podcast@irenicast.com. Follow us on Twitter @irenicast, and like us on Facebook at facebook.com/irenicast. We're really looking forward to hearing more from you for our next episode, so please write in. And don't forget to also check out our blog at irenicast.com. So for this week, I'm Jeff.
I'm Mona.
And I'm Alan.
Thanks for joining the conversation.